One nuclear weapon.
Guinea junta unveils charter for civilian transition. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta urges global community to remain focused in fight against malaria despite ongoing COVID-19. Plus, World Health Organization horrified over sexual exploitation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. These are just some of the major highlights on the program this week. Do sit back as we bring you updates of events around the world. I am Ekene Ndulue. Welcome to Global Update. Let's begin in Guinea, where the junta that seized power has unveiled a transitional charter that it says will steer the country back to civilian rule. The charter sets down a series of tasks that includes drafting a new constitution and holding free, democratic and transparent elections.
Le serment prévu par l'article 47 de la Charte de la Transition.
Moi, Mamadi Doumbouya, président de la transition, je jure devant le peuple de Guinée de préserver en toute loyauté la souveraineté nationale.
Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya has been sworn in as head of Guinea's transition government following the sacking of now-detained Alpha Condé. Mamadi Doumbouya, while promising a new constitution and transparent elections, pledged that he would not be standing in the election for the planned successor civilian government. ECOWAS, the regional bloc, had suspended Guinea and imposed limited sanctions on the leaders, but this has apparently been rejected by the junta and the population, who say Guineans will decide their own fate. The military junta that seized power in the West African state of Guinea has unveiled a transitional charter that it says will steer the country back to civilian rule. The document, read out on national television, sets down a series of tasks, including the drafting of a new constitution and holding free, democratic and transparent elections, although it does not spell out how long the transition will last. Recall that troops led by a Special Forces Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya on September 5th arrested 83-year-old President Alpha Condé, who had been battling a wave of unpopularity. Condé became Guinea's first democratically elected president in 2010 and was re-elected in 2015. But last year, he pushed through a controversial new constitution that allowed him to run for a third term in October 2020. The move sparked mass demonstrations in which dozens of protesters were killed. Condé won re-election, but the political opposition maintained the poll was a sham. The new charter identifies 4 institutions or figures that will be in charge of the transition. They are the National Rallying Committee for Development (CNRD), set up by the junta and headed by Mamadi Doumbouya. The president of the transition, who will also serve as the head of the CNRD, head of state and armed forces chief, a government headed by a civilian prime minister, and a legislative body called the National Transition Council or CNT. The charter also stipulates that no member of these institutions will be allowed to take part in either national or local elections, which will be organized at the end of the transition period. The duration of the transition will be set down by joint agreement among the living forces of the nation and the CNRD, according to the charter. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is deeply worried by the turbulence in Guinea, one of the poorest and most volatile countries in Africa. ECOWAS is demanding that elections be held within 6 months, as well as the release of Alpha Condé. Guinea's ambassador to the United Nations told the UN General Assembly that the electoral rolls would be revised and the new constitution would be drafted ahead of new elections.
We shall continue to monitor the proposed transition process by the junta in Guinea and bring you updates on the program. Let's turn our attention to Cameroon, where infertility has become a public health issue. The country's health system does not offer public social security. Therefore, couples have to bear the full cost of their infertility care.
Medical specialists handling cases of infertility state that they receive about 150 patients a month, numbers depicting a real health and social problem faced by couples in their quest for a baby. There are two types of infertility, primary and secondary, with male cause factors and female cause factors.
It has to do with all those things concerning the sperm, the quantity of the sperm, the quality of the sperm. Concerning the female factor, it has to do with the uterus, the cervix, the uterus, the tubes, the ovaries, and even the brain.
According to specialists, there can be natural causes of infertility where some are born with malformations of the reproductive organ, but there are also risky behaviors that affect fertility, like untreated STIs and abortions.
When you do many abortions, you increase the complication, even though you can have all the complications. You have the complication in one abortion. You have hemorrhage, which is the first complication. It's infection of the uterus, infection of the tubes. All those infections are going to create adhesion. Those adhesion will impair the fertility.
Based on medics, contraceptives cannot make one sterile, but there are some that can provoke a delay before conception. And to reassure couples in their quest to parenthood, medics add that there are solutions, one of which is in vitro fertilization.
Staying on health issues, President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged the global community to remain focused in its fight against malaria despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The president, who is also the current chairman of the African Leaders Malaria Alliance, said it is unfortunate that COVID-19 has overshadowed all the efforts that had gone into fighting malaria.
Everyone, and thank you.
The End Malaria Council, EMC, is a group of global public sector and business leaders that sees malaria eradication as a critical health and development priority. President Uhuru Kenyatta calling on the global community not to lose momentum in the fight against malaria.
Let's get our partners to understand that it is in the interest of everybody that we keep our eye on the ball. The fight against malaria, the fight against TB, the fight against HIV/AIDS. These are all critical fights that will ensure that we are better placed not only to fight the current pandemic that is keeping people's attention, but also help us prepare to protect ourselves against future pandemics.
President Kenyatta, who is the current chair of the African Leaders Malaria Alliance, ALMA, emphasized the need to focus on the Alliance 4-point agenda, top among them the use of real-time data, including sharing country malaria scorecards, which is useful to support the fight against current and future pandemics.
We want to ensure that the great work of the Global Fund and all our other partners have contributed over the years in helping us fight malaria will not be reversed in the coming years.
Already 10 countries, including Kenya, Rwanda and Ghana, are sharing their scorecards through the online platform. ALMA has also engaged the young people known as Youth Army, such as the Kazi Mtaani program in Kenya that has enabled the youth to clean neighborhoods, hence reducing water and vector-borne diseases, including malaria, in their communities.
These are the social health care workers. These are the young men and women at the grassroots who are engaged, whom we need to resource,
Present in the meeting were former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete, American philanthropist Bill Gates, Dangote Group Chief Executive Officer Aliko Dangote, and World Health Organization Ambassador for Global Strategy and Health Financing Ray Chambers, who acknowledged the progress of President Kenyatta's ALMA agenda in the fight against malaria.
Let's take a breather now and go for a short break. Not to worry, when we return, we shall bring you more stories from around the world.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods and services. So partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Welcome back. And if you've just tuned in, the program is Global Updates, where we bring you up to speed with events in the past week. Moving on, Algeria has been manufacturing Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines. The vaccine products will be named CoronaVac, and the biologics plant in the country plans to make the first 1 million doses in October and double the capacity by November.
Algeria has begun manufacturing Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines on a joint venture with China. The production line was inaugurated at a ceremony attended by the Algerian Prime Minister and the Chinese ambassador to Algeria at the joint venture between China's biopharmaceutical firm Sinovac Biotech and Algeria's pharmaceutical group Seidal. The vaccine product made in Algeria will be named CoronaVac, and the biologics plant in Constantine plans to make the first 1 million doses in October and double the capacity by November. A full production capacity of 5 million doses per month is expected to be met in January of next year. The Algerian Prime Minister maintains that the production line aims to produce 6 million doses of Sinovac vaccine by the end of this year and 96 million doses each year thereafter. Since the COVID-19 outbreak, Algeria and China have been closely cooperating to fight the pandemic. In February 2020, Algeria was one of the first countries to send medical donations to China, which in return has also sent several batches of medical aid and experts to Algeria.
Away from the African continent, the United Nations General Assembly President Abdullah Shahid has expressed gratitude to China's efforts to global challenges. In an interview after the general debate of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, The president also pointed out the UN plans to administer COVID-19 vaccines to 40% of the world's population by the end of this year and 70% of the world's population before the middle of 2022.
I was very encouraged by the general debate, how countries came together. The general debate clearly demonstrated that leaders wanted to come together with a ray of hope to their people. The positive message that came across during the general debate, I'm sure, was enlightening, and it has given hope to many around the world. After my election, the first speech I made, I highlighted the fact that there is no alternative but to vaccinate the entire world, because we have clearly come to know that no one is safe until everyone is safe. So there is no choice. Many leaders, even during the general debate, came out saying that they are ready to contribute to this effort. I am encouraged by the fact that President Xi, during his statement, for example, promised to donate 2 billion doses of vaccine. I sincerely believe that international community today has the capacity, and it is a doable, it's an achievable target to vaccinate everyone by the end of 2022. I think it's very, very significant. It has been welcomed by many, many countries that President Xi has announced this. It means that countries are actually taking positive steps. It's very significant.
An inquiry has revealed that World Health Organization staff were among aid workers who sexually abused women and girls while tackling the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The abuses, which included 9 allegations of rape, were committed by both national and international workers between 2018 and 2020.
A report by an independent commission following investigations has revealed that the World Health Organization staff were among 83 aid workers who sexually abused women and girls while tackling the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The abuses, which included 9 allegations of rape, were committed by both national and international workers between 2018 and 2020. The report comes after more than 50 local women reported sexual abuse. The WHO Director General, Tedros Ghebreyesus, has maintained that it was inexcusable.
The first thing I want to say is to the victims and survivors of the sexual exploitation and abuse described in the Commission's report. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what was done to you by people who were employed by WHO to serve and protect you.
The 35-page report was produced by an independent commission following an investigation. The commission, which interviewed dozens of women who had alleged they were offered work in exchange for sex, found that 21 of the 83 alleged perpetrators were employed by the WHO. The WHO says it was terminating the contracts of 4 people who were still employed by the organization and promised more measures would be taken.
It's my top priority to ensure that the perpetrators are not excused but are held to account.
Recall that more than 2,000 people died in the Ebola outbreak in DR Congo, and the WHO, which spearheaded global efforts to curb the spread of the outbreak, declared it over in June last year.
Now, let's take a look at other stories that made headlines in the past week. Stay with us.
In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa authorized the release of a controversial report into the irregular awarding of a contract for a COVID-19 media campaign. The contract was awarded by the Health Ministry to a private company, Digital Vibes. The report claims senior officials benefited from some of the money paid to the company. The investigation led to the resignation of Health Minister Zweli Nkeze in June this year, and last weekend the government announced the suspension of Director General for Health, Sandile Buthelezi. Since early July, the president was under increasing pressure to release the findings of the investigation. Former Health Minister Zweli Nkeze faces allegation of involvement in the hiring of close associates in the tender. Top U.S. defense officials have said the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan can be traced back to a deal between the group and the Trump administration. The so-called Doha Agreement was signed in February 2020 and set a date for the United States to withdraw its troops. General Frank McKenzie said the deal had a harmful effect on the Afghan government and military. After his election, U.S. President Joe Biden continued the plan for withdrawal, but with an end date of 31st August instead of May. The U.S. defense officials made the comments on Wednesday in testimony to the House of Representatives Armed Service Committee.
In the United States, 2 top U.S. generals have said they recommended keeping a force of 2,500 troops in Afghanistan ahead of the full U.S. withdrawal in August. Testimony by General Mark Milley and General Frank McKenzie to Congress seemed to contradict President Joe Biden, who said he did not recall any such advice. A suicide attack killed 182 people during the withdrawal operation. 13 U.S. service personnel and at least 169 Afghans were killed by the airport gate on 26 August.
Gas station pumps ran dry in British cities on Monday, and vendors rationed sales as a shortage of truckers strained supply chains to breaking point. A post-Brexit shortage of lorry drivers as the COVID-19 pandemic eases has sown chaos through British supply chains in everything from food to fuel, raising the specter of disruptions and price rises in the run-up to Christmas. Drivers queued for hours to fill their cars at petrol stations that were still selling fuel. There were also calls for National Health Service staff and other emergency workers to be given priority. Meanwhile, Serbian troops have been on a heightened state of alert after the government in Belgrade accused neighboring Kosovo of provocations by sending special police units to the border. Already, tense relations between Serbia and its former breakaway region have grown worse since the ethnic Albanian-led government there dispatched the police units to an area mainly populated by minority ethnic Serbs who reject the authority of the government in Kosovo's capital, Pristina. The deployment came as hundreds of ethnic Serbs have staged daily protests against a decision to require drivers with Serbian registration plates to put on temporary ones when entering Kosovo. Hundreds of Serbs in Kosovo have been protesting and blocking traffic with trucks on the roads leading to 2 border crossings.
And that's it on this edition of the program Global Update. Continue to observe all safety protocols against COVID-19. I am Ekene Ndulwe. Thanks for watching.